The May 19th, 2025 meeting of the Bay City City Commission will come to order. The clerk will give the invocation, which will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Coakley.
Here.
Bernie Obershaw.
Here.
Tenney.
Here.
Hilliker. DeWitt.
Here.
Rumberg.
Here.
Charlebois.
Here.
Morris. Mr. Mayor.
Present. Now, we did hear from Commissioner Hillikers and Morris. Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Motion to excuse Commissioners Hilliker and Morris.
Is there a second? Commissioner Coakley?
Second.
Is there any objection? Those commissioners are excused. All right. And we have a quorum. Next item of business calls for presentations. And we're going to continue our fun discussion about budgets. Mr. Martini is back again to lay down the numbers. And I'll turn it over to you.
Like the proverbial bad penny, here I am again. Well, welcome to the second installment of the presentation of the 25-26 city budget. And tonight's focus is going to be on what we call the other city funds. Of course, the last meeting we had the general fund. And then we were separating out the utilities, water, sewer, and electric, in a separate presentation. So this is all the other funds, which includes things like the street funds, all the intergovernmental funds, et cetera. So with that, I guess I will go ahead and get started. The first one, and because we have a lot of new commissioners, I will try to remember to give a little introduction to what each fund is. The Cemetery Endowment Fund is, for the most part, a permanent savings fund for the maintenance of our city-owned cemetery. So a portion of the revenues are always dedicated to go into this fund and then stay in this fund. And then a portion of the revenues are basically transferred to the cemetery fund on an annual basis. So with that, we had $3,500 in service revenues that are going to go into the fund and stay in there. And then we also had interest and rents of $4,700 that will ultimately get transferred out to basically to the cemetery fund. So total revenue expense of $8,213. Major streets probably doesn't need an introduction, but obviously these are the costs associated with maintaining and constructing our major streets. Transfers in, we have a number of different sources. First off, the Marquette Tifa contributed $789,000. I should probably get my glasses so I can see. $785,000. $450,000 of the marijuana funds are in this transfer in number. $500,000 for the ARPA, and then $16,551 from the workers' comp fund. I guess I'm likening that to basically a refund of contributions into the workers' comp fund that is now getting refunded. State grants, we have a fairly significant increase, but this included $800,000 that we received from the state of Michigan to basically cover the cost of our match for the Lafayette Bridge. Interest and rents, pretty much most of the funds are, you're going to see increases, and this is primarily because of interest rates increasing. The other funds are other, and this is where the bridge reimbursement revenue is recognized. There's 300,000 there. And then we have another contribution from the Bay City Road Commission of 230,000 for Wilder and Truman. And lastly, the 965 is basically use of fund balance. Expenditures. Personnel costs are pretty much stagnant. Fringe benefits went down, and this is consistent with most funds. We had a significant decrease in retiree health care expenses. Operating supplies pretty much the same. Other services is just a combination of maintenance, et cetera. And then capital outlay, we've got different programs, and we've got some detail on that a little further into the presentation. Construction engineering, this is where most of our capital outlay is expensed at, a fairly significant increase. Non-motorized improvements, this is the cost of building sidewalks. And in particular, the Act 51 requirements require that 1% of our annual expenditures averaged over a 10-year period have to be for non-motorized. So sidewalks, bike lanes, that type of things. So we're having to actually do some sidewalk funds out of the Act 51 revenues. Traffic signals, obviously, different things in relation to the traffic signals. Winter maintenance, salt, plowing, surface maintenance, fixing potholes, taking care of the roads. Independence Bridge, this is the cost that we incur maintaining the Independence Bridge. In the last slide, we talked about the reimbursement that we get from Bay City Bridge Partners. We are not reimbursed dollar for dollar for the bridges. There are certain costs that we are responsible for. So these costs don't come out to the exact same amount. Liberty Bridge, kind of same thing, routine maintenance. And American Rescue Plan, this is the revenue that the city designated from the ARPA dollars to be used for local roads or the major streets in the city. Personnel costs, pretty much consistent, small decrease, allocation changes for different positions. As far as the capital outlay, we have some patching from Marquette, McKinley Street reconstruction, 1.1 million. Smith Street, obviously the largest one, 2.3 million. Truman, Wilder, Tiernan, 1,560,000. Henry Street, just getting started with design, 60,000. Morton Avenue reconstruction, 450. Water Street Bridge, 50,000. Again, we actually have 3 bridges that the city owns. Besides Liberty and Independence, there is the Water Street Bridge, which is not a bascule bridge, but it is a bridge that we're responsible for. Signal replacements, changeable message board, Salter unit, trailer attenuator, and traffic device. Local streets. Transfers in again, we have 150,000 from the marijuana revenues. CDBG is contributing $900,000 to the local streets. And small refund, 6481 from workers' comp. State grants, this is basically the Act 51.
Mr. Martini, make sure you're speaking directly into that mic so we get that.
Interest and rents, again, this one actually went down. It is based on actual cash balances, so that does vary a little bit there. And other small things there. Personnel costs were, again, down in comparison to last year. Fringe benefits, quite a bit more. Again, retiree health care was a large reduction. Operating supplies, pretty much consistent, same as other services. Capital outlay, 15% increase. And again, moving on, construction engineering, this is where most of the capital expenses are done. And this is, for the most part, CDB local projects, about 900,000 of that 1.3 million. And then the other typical programs. Notice the American Rescue Plan, we have expended all of the ARPA dollars that have been allocated to the local streets. Again, position allocations, a little bit smaller allocation this coming year. And as far as the capital outlay, we have, of course, the CDBG local streets, 900,000, and we're buying a stump auger, 28,000. Moving on to solid waste management. Charges for services is basically stagnant. We have not had any, excuse me, any rate increases for a couple, 2-3 years now, I believe, and are not anticipating any in the near future. No state grants this year. Fines, typical fines for excess trash, whatever. Interest and rents, we do have some interest revenue coming in. And so total revenues, about the same as last year, about a 3% increase. Small increase in transfers in. Again, that's from the workers' comp refund. Expenditures, personnel are actually down. Fringe benefits are up, but it all depends on who gets allocated to a department. In some cases, medical insurance between a single person and a married person can vary quite dramatically. So it all depends on who's actually in the department. Operating supplies are actually down. Other services are down. And transfers out, this is one that I would kind of like to touch on. The Middle Grounds Fund is one of our sore thumbs, I guess is maybe a good way to put it. It's basically a contaminated area that the city combined together with, used to be General Motors and Honeywell were the ones responsible for the polluting. So we are on the hook now for our portion, as well as General Motors kind of got out of theirs, and us and Honeywell are the remaining. So this number has been going up over the last several years. Solid waste management used to contribute towards that cleanup, but several years ago, solid waste kind of became a problem child where we were constantly spending more than we were bringing in, and they just didn't have the money to contribute. With all of the changes in the solid waste program, we now have adequate revenues to help contribute to this program.
Mr. Martini, what is the total, do we have that somewhere what the total cost is of contribution?
I do, yes. Let me find the slide. I have the cost broken out on the, when we get to the middle grounds fund.
Okay, if you have it down the road, that's fine. No pun intended.
Okay. And last but not least, in the past, the Solid Waste Management Fund was broken out between sanitation and recycling, but the allocation was, for the most part, a 50-50 split. They really didn't maintain how much time they spent on sanitation and how much time they spent on recycling, so the numbers really didn't mean much. As a result, we just decided to combine the two departments into one large department, and that's all we'll present in going forward. Positions, there are actually 2 less than the last year. They've decided the staffing that they need, and it's 15 positions. Community Development Block Grant. This fund, of course, is one that has a lot of questions in terms of what's going to happen going forward. At this point, we've basically just moved forward with the budget, and we'll take it from there, see what happens. As far as expenses, there's a little bit of personnel costs allocated to this fund. Operating supplies, mainly it's other services and capital outlay, which I do have a breakout of, the capital programs that are associated with it, as well as the major programs. So I'll just kind of move forward into those. Emergency home rehab down, city sidewalks going down, rehab, citywide projects, actually a large increase there. But again, in total, down about 13%. Here's where we are actually using the revenues. So housing rehab, almost 600,000. Sidewalks, 513,000. The neighborhood street project, as I mentioned when I was talking about local streets, 900,000. Bigelow Park, 237. Roosevelt and Bernie Park, 200. Good Samaritan Homeless Facility, 250. And then community policing, 155. Good Samaritan operating expenses, 36. And then from an administration standpoint, Fair Housing Council, 5,000. And then actually administration of the program, 253.
Just make sure you're speaking to the mic so we get it recorded properly and people can hear you.
Total expenditures, $3,000,001. Personnel costs, again, relatively small allocation, less than 1 person to this program. Emergency rehab, most of that comes from the CDBG program and going down this year. And again, expenditures reflecting the revenues. Housing rehab, pretty much eliminated. HUD program also eliminated. Local site remediation revolving fund. This is pretty much a new fund that has been created as part of the Brownfield program. And what it is there's provisions where a brownfield that is capturing revenues, at the end of that capture, typically, there's an extension of it for the capture to go into this local site remediation revolving fund. And then this fund is going to ultimately be used to loan money to developers for environmental remediation on their projects. So far, I think we've just had 1 loan. We're on our second one. And worked out fairly well. And we will continue building this fund and then using it for the purpose that I talked about. So it's basically just another tool in our tool belt for helping companies develop here in the city, especially with going into brownfield locations. Brownfield Authority. This is, of course, the program that we have had set up for a number of years where we basically create a brownfield. We capture all of the incremental revenues as the property is developed, and those incremental revenues are then used to help fund or reimburse the developer for the costs associated with environmental remediation, the demolition of various blight structures, et cetera, et cetera. So as you can see, we've got a fairly large state grant this year, that a couple of Eagle grants for Columbus and Adams, $850,000, as well as North Peak, $52,000. And then, of course, the tax revenues, those are the incremental tax captures. So total revenues coming in next year, 1.3 million. Expenditures, again, 1.3 million. Most of that is going to be for professional services associated with the grants that we received on those other two grants or two Eagle programs. There is a portion of one person associated with that is responsible for the administration of the brownfield. The Uptown Brownfield, this of course is the Uptown program that has been I think it's pretty safe to say, a huge success. Again, there was a significant amount of environmental remediation, and but then it's resulted in a lot of construction, and for 25-26 we are looking at tax increments of $2.9 million together with another $41,000 in interest, and those dollars are then used to basically, in some cases, reimburse the city for some costs, as well as reimbursing the developer for his costs, their costs, I should say. And then the remainder of it is transferred into the Uptown Brownfield Debt Service Fund to basically pay the debt on the bonds that were issued to do all of the major renovations or remediation.
Mr. Martini, I had a quick question.
Yes.
Do you get asked a lot, the taxes collected, there's not a reduced taxable rate that we have for properties in Uptown? Do they pay their full taxable rate, or?
They pay their full taxable rate. I'm not aware that there's any kind of a discount or anything, but most of that, and I was going to also comment that one of the worries, of course, is that we were going to issue a whole bunch of bonds, and then the tax capture wasn't going to be adequate to do the debt service on those bonds. In our case, it's the opposite. We were looking for a 1-to-1 match, and now we're about $2 collected for every $1 of money going for debt service. So the chances of ever having to dip into the general fund to make the payment on this Uptown debt is probably very, very slim.
All right, Commissioner DeWitt had a question.
Just for clarification on this, first, so far you've hit 7 of my 94 questions that I sent you last week, so we're doing pretty good so far. The same topic with the brownfield and the Uptown development, from my understanding, the pilot rate, so they pay to the general fund what the original value of the land was. For anything above and beyond that, they pay in to the pilot for either the reimbursement or the debt based off of the allocation of those funds, correct?
I'm not exactly sure what you mean by the pilot or the,
So the pilot would be the market rate. So they pay the market rate amount, but that segment of it doesn't come to the city for general funds. It goes to the brownfield itself and the back end.
it goes to the brownfield, which is then split up between going to the debt service, and what's left over goes back to the developer to help pay his costs.
Just wanted to clarify that point. Thank you.
Thank you. All set. Any other questions right now? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the DDA. This is, of course, our Downtown Development Authority. They collect about $173,000 in taxes. As far as charges for services is parking fees, et cetera, fines and forfeitures, again, costs associated with that. In total, $222,000 in revenues. Personnel, the DDA, of course, did go ahead and hire a full-time person. That person has now moved on. I believe they are intending on replacing it. This is the cost of those positions. This is probably also including the cost of the parking ambassadors. They are now considered city employees, or not city employees. Let me rephrase that. Clearly, they are DDA employees, but they are employees of the DDA. They are not contractual people. Other services is all the different things that the DDA is doing. Capital outlay. I don't know if I did not break down that. I'm sorry, but don't have that number. Moving on to building code enforcement. The revenues here are obviously licenses and permits. So if you have a building project, you go in and pull a permit and pay for that. And also included in here is like the rental inspections. That's all part of this budget as well. And then transfers in. This is one of the largest programs within the ARPA program was the code enforcement and expansion that is being funded by the ARPA program. For this coming year, it's just a little, it's $1,261,314. The other $18,000 is the workers' comp refund. So fairly significant amount of money. Expenditures, of course, this is all of the personnel associated with the building project and code enforcement. And other services is the ARPA program includes basically emergency home repairs and demolition, et cetera. So that's the bulk of that number on the bottom. 1.4 million. Departmental budget, building inspection 797, rental inspection 612, and again American Rescue Plan Act 1,261,000. Again, that's a combination of an expansion of the code enforcement efforts as well as some emergency home repairs, and as well as demolition. Personnel, a little over 14 positions allocated to this department. Moving on to Midland Street Management, this is a special assessment in this district, and they're basically using their revenues for advertising, electric, and various maintenance within the district.
Commissioner, do you have a question?
I'm sorry, I kind of overslept the building code enforcement. What did you say about the budget with code enforcement?
The ARPA revenues that we received back in 2021, the fairly large allocation of those revenues were to the building department for an expansion of their code enforcement efforts. So there's additional personnel, two additional, three total positions additional in that department. And then there's also an allocation for emergency home repair as well as demolition. Anything else? I think that's, so those,
And that was for what year?
well, it originally was made either in 21 or 22, but the ARPA program is a continuing program. We have those revenues available for use through December 31st of 2026. So literally my last check has to be dated 12/31/26. Anything left over has to go back to the federal government.
March 2022, $4 million was given by the ARPA money allocated towards home repairs. I see that we have property maintenance inspectors. There were 2 of them that were hired. Were there any more hired from that time on, up until now?
No, there is one other position, the community coordinator position. So those are the 3 that I'm.
Could you speak up, please? I didn't hear you.
So the community coordinator is one position and then 2 code enforcement officers. So those are the 3 positions that are being paid for from ARPA.
Just one last, I don't know if it's a question, it really isn't a question. The ARPA money specifically said you were supposed to hire property maintenance inspectors. So with that being said, I guess I'll have to go to the city manager, so have you, or I'm just saying this is what ARPA expected of the money that was given, the $4 million. So thank you, Mr. Martini. I'm just, we'll have to go over that and see what we can do with that with the maintenance inspectors, because we really need them right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for clarification, I think code enforcement officials are property maintenance inspectors. That's, maybe there's a
I know-
nomenclature thing that we
I know
need for
that.
clarification. Oh, okay, all
I
right.
know, yeah. I know
Okay,
that.
I thought there was a question there, so thank you.
Not to you.
Okay, all right, continue.
Okay, getting back to Midland Street Management, again, small allocation used for basically promoting that district. Columbus Avenue Management, pretty much the same thing. Small tax capture, again, same kind of services again. Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, this fund is basically funded through the sale of surplus property, if there is any. And for this coming year, the $4,875 is basically being designated to just go in to build the fund balance. There is no expenses budgeted for next year. Drug law enforcement, this program, of course, 4 or 5 years ago, there was a major change in the drug forfeiture program. As a result of that, the amount of forfeitures that we are receiving has drastically been reduced. So again, the revenues are only, proposed revenue is $7,300. Most of that is interest on the money that's in the account right now, combined with planning on using about $4,800 of that money. And most of the other services is the use of those dollars for buy money to basically do sting operations. Water Street DDA. This, again, is a tax increment district and projected to bring in tax revenues of $430,000 next year. Some, obviously, interest revenue on those dollars. But the Water Street DDA, up until just this year, had been using most of those dollars to pay the debt service on the repaving of some of the downtown streets. That was a 10-year bond, and if I'm not mistaken, I made the last payment on April 1st. So for next year, there is no debt service, as you can see. And at this point, the other services is just designating it to go into fund balance. There's about $325,000 going into fund balance, and then some professional service, engineering, and electric for the remainder of it, of those other services. But at this point, most of it is just going into fund balance until they kind of figure out what program they're going to undertake. Midland Street Tifa. There's, again, this is a tax capture of $153,000, $4,400 in interest. And as far as what they're planning on using it for, about $72,000 is going to go into fund balance, with about $77,000 being used for debt service or a past bond issuance. Marquette District, again, tax increment financing authority. Most of the revenues in this case are going to be used to build up fund balance. The Marquette District has typically used their funds kind of in big chunks, big programs, $1 million paving projects. So they're probably building it up again for the next one. Again, here's an example. Expenses, we're planning on transferring about $785,000 out. And this will be to major streets, to $95,000 for a match for Truman to Tiernan, and $690,000 for Wilder Tiernan Truman Street project. So again, using some significant dollars. Marquette District has about 1/2 of a person dedicated to that position. Now, getting into the American Rescue Plan Act, again, as I was talking before, this program will expire on December 31st, 2026. So whatever doesn't get spent in this coming year, we will only have a very small window in the 26-27 fiscal year to basically utilize those funds.
Commissioner DeWitt?
On that subject, while we're thinking about it, we allocated near 100% of the amount, correct?
No, not near 100%. We allocated 100% of
I wasn't sure if we had any held back for contingencies.
There was no real way to do that because anything that was not allocated by December 31st, 2024, the feds expected a check.
All right, that's the answer I was looking for. Thank
And
you.
I got that letter on like January 3rd or 4th or 5th. They wanted their money back right away.
All right, Commissioner, you all set, Commissioner? Commissioner Tenney?
Thank you. Just wondering why the cost increase in attorney fees for ARPA dollars, looking at about a $30,000 increase from last year to this year.
In which I'm not sure which number you're looking at.
Page 60 in our booklets for those of you looking for the cheat sheet.
Which number are we, as far as the expenses?
George, it's under 287. It's under the other services it falls under.
Okay, the other services is pretty much any program that is not necessarily a city program. So for instance, the ARPA dollars is not only funding, well, they're funding a very large sewer project, a very large water project, and then the project in the building department. But in terms of the other services, this is all of those individual contracts that were agreed to by the city. Oh, let's see, Chamber of Commerce had some revenue, had some expenses, Boys and Girls Club, NAACP, oh boy, United Way.
I think he's asking, because last year's was 25,000, this proposed year's 39 for attorney fees. So
Oh,
he's asking what the increase is for the,
oh, and as far as, oh, the attorney fees are really ad hoc. It's really depending on what program or what contracts are being done. And
So it may just, and I was looking at the wrong numbers, I apologize. It's more like a 10,000-ish increase, right?
Yeah.
But it just depends on what kind of contracts we're getting and what kind of contracts they're reviewing, that's it.
Yep.
Right.
and if I could add to that too, during the course of him having contracts, people come back to us and ask us questions on some things that they can spend the money on, and then he consults with that attorney. So that's where that gets rung up.
I'll say Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
I heard you say some of the money are spent for, are they non-profit organizations?
Mainly, yes.
I heard you mention the NAACP. Are these organizations, do they come and ask for this money, or is it allocated to them?
They made specific requests to the city commission. They basically proposed the program that they were going to spend the money on. And then when the city commission allocated the dollars between myself and our attorney, basically looked at what they were proposing and whether or not that was within the scope of the ARPA regulations, and maybe did a little bit of tailoring here and there, but that's how the contracts were all arrived at, is through the initial request from the organization, and then basically the negotiation back and forth.
Okay. I'm tired. Every budget, I know you're tired of me saying this. February 6th of last year, February 22nd, our last budget, I keep asking you, the NAACP, $250,000. We did that last year. It was allocated, never came through. September through August, same thing. So I'm wondering, you know, when money is allocated, when are the people, the nonprofits, when you said that we get money, so when are they to ask for the money? Because it's already $500,000. I don't know when, you know, nonprofit organizations, when are they to ask for this money? How can I put it? I mean, it's $500,000. So when will, because NAACP are not the only ones that have been able to, that want to tap into this. So with, you know, a lot of money that's been allocated to these nonprofit organizations, are they being able to tap into this?
First off, just to clarify, the NAACP contract is a total of $250,000. There was an additional $500,000 allocation that ultimately they basically did not take those dollars and were reprogrammed for other usage. but they have a contract for $250,000. That contract was probably somewhere back in 2022. And in fact, they came in today and brought an invoice for expenses that were consistent with their program that I will be processing in the next couple of weeks. But in terms of any other contracts, again, most of the activity that took place was 2021, 22, some in 2023. There is no chance of changing those allocations at this point. December 31st of 2024, whatever was allocated, that's all there was, and you cannot do any further allocations. So we could potentially, let's say for instance we deobligate, or we know we're going to have money left over from one of the organizations that has an ARPA allocation. We cannot make a decision that, okay, because they're not going to spend it, we're going to give it over here. The December 31st, 2024 date was, that's it. There is no more.
Okay, every time, I say the $250,000, when I ask the city manager, the money has been put aside. Is that money still in that pot?
Yes.
So they can ask for it if they decide to place it somewhere.
Most of the people aren't really asking for the funds. They're basically showing what they spent the money on and are asking for reimbursement of legitimate ARPA costs associated with their program.
When you have low-income people that have nothing, how could they spend it? It's another subject, but I really don't understand when you don't have money. It's like asking me to go spend $100,000 when I don't have a pot to, in.
Most, really none of our programs are granting to an individual. It's always to an organization. That organization has the reserves to go ahead and pay those costs and then get reimbursed from the city.
One last word. Organizations, if they're nonprofit, that means they have no money. So it's like, okay, you can have this piece of candy, but you have no money to buy it. So it's like, you're giving someone something, but you're really not. So that's all I have to say. It's like you didn't give it to them. We didn't give it to them in the first place. And it's really sad when you promise people something and you're really not giving it to them. And us as the new city commission, we're not about that. The old commission were, but we are not. And I'm glad to have the commission that are sitting here now because we're going to make things happen for people. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Commissioner Coakley.
I think I'm actually okay. He explained everything to my needs.
Okay. Just a quick clarification. So were all the programs all reimbursable the way it's, I understand what Commissioner Bernie Overshaw is saying is that it's hard to acquire the funding if you don't have the funds and that you don't have the money to get reimbursed because you don't have the money to spend it. But are all the programs, were they set up that way as far as to nonprofits?
None of the programs were set up where, okay, we have a $250,000 contract. I give you the $250,000 and then you basically tell me how you spent it. None of them were set up that way. Now with the NAACP, and they are probably one of the most cash strapped. What in some cases I will get is copies of invoices that maybe haven't been paid yet, that I will then reimburse them so that they can pay those bills. A little more lenient than maybe others. But most of the other organizations, what I receive is an invoice for what they have spent already. Payroll costs, various non-personnel costs, et cetera.
Okay, so you are doing some accommodating then?
Just a very, very small amount. Okay. And it's very, very selective.
Commissioner Coakley?
Just real quick, is it a possibility that let's say an organization like that, can they have whomever they're dealing with invoice the city?
We've never done that.
I realize that, I'm just saying, is it a possibility in certain situations that we could make that happen?
I would consider the possibility of that for large expenses. I don't want to start making invoices or checks out to Staples for $37.22 for their office supplies.
I agree with that. I'm
So-
talking about the large ones.
If it was a major cost, that could potentially be accommodated.
They need a roof at the church. There's only maybe I'd say less than 100 of them left now for the NAACP in Bay City. There's less than that. The church needs things. They need it.
Okay, all set, commissioners? Commissioner Tenney?
Just real quick, on the topic of it being a reimbursement program, what informed that? Was it the contract attorney's advice? Was it just the way other municipalities were doing it? Was it we're erring on the side of caution? Some combination of all of the above?
Can you clarify that? In terms of the contracts, what ended up happening is they proposed to do a certain program, and then in consultation with myself, as well as the city attorney, we looked at how that program fit into the ARPA regulations, and if it didn't fit, they had to retailor what they were doing and to make sure that they did fit within those ARPA regs.
George, I think he's asking if other municipalities do the reimbursable program like we do, or do they pay the invoices directly, and what's recommended from the city attorney and the program itself?
We've really always used just the reimbursement methodology. I do not know if others are doing it differently. I think the reimbursement method has the least issues in terms of having somebody come in and basically say, no, this is not correct, or you didn't get the proper invoices. Because right now, every invoice that I pay to an organization, there is a complete detail of all the personnel costs that were paid. There's copies of every single invoice that they reimbursed, that they paid. There's 100% accountability for those dollars. I have absolutely no concern that when a federal regulator, if and when they come in, that the city is going to have to write a big check to reimburse them for unallowable costs.
Got it. It's just a mechanism to ensure that they're compliant, and it's an accountability thing. It's always been that way. I got you. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dick. Yeah, I appreciate that explanation. I'd hate to see the city have to write a big check back to the federal government.
Between having to reimburse for expenses that we really did incur, and even for that matter, having to write a big check for whatever we didn't spend, neither one of those are something that I would like to see happen for the city. We got the 31 million for use. We should use it. So,
All right, thank you.
all right. Moving on to the debt sinking fund. This is basically a debt service fund, and this is used to pay two different costs. One, we have an MDEQ loan where the annual repayment is $97,000. And then, of course, back in 2012, we did a small bond issuance to basically redo the HVAC in this building. And the cost associated with that is $112,228. Those dollars come from a couple of different sources, transfers, and as well as, in some cases, use of fund balance. But for the most part, this is basically just a fund that is used to account for debt payments. Uptown, this is a very similar fund. It's basically the same thing, but this fund is specifically to make the bond payments on the debt that we issued to do all of the infrastructure improvements over in the Uptown area. We've borrowed right around 23 million, I believe, was the total. And again, you know, the tax increment necessary to pay this debt is almost twice as much as what the actual debt is. So it gives us very, very good security that we will always have a viable funding source for this debt. Public Improvement Fund. This is a fund, just to kind of go back maybe a little bit. The City General Fund, the City Commission passed a resolution or created a policy a number of years ago that says that the general fund will have a fund balance of between 15 and 20% of the previous year's amended expenditure budget. So for instance, this year we're looking at the 2024 expenditure budget, multiplying that by 15 and 20%, and our fund balance should be somewhere in that range. We have been able to fund our fund balance at the higher, the 20%, simply because we've had very good operating results and, quite frankly, balanced budgets for really as long as I've been here for the most part. And but when we get a fund balance level in the general fund that is over that 20% level, and only if it's over the 20% level, do we then go ahead and transfer the excess, not the full 20% or anything, just the amount over the 20%. And what we've done is typically used it to fund the Public Improvement Fund. Just recently, we transferred 1.2 million, which was the last 2 years' excess of the general fund over and above the revenue, revenue and expenses. So those are the dollars that are going in there, and what we're now using is the 624, 614 is basically use of the fund balance that's in that fund. And then, of course, because of the money in there, we're also earning interest revenue. But as far as what we are using that for, we've got some other services, 345, and capital outlay, 300,000. And just to kind of give you an idea of a little bit more detail on that, these are all the different things that we plan on doing with that. Footbridge and engineering, 100,000. Number of improvements to Fire Station 1, and as well as some improvements for Fire Station 4. And then as far as the capital outlay, the shoreline stabilization for Vets Park, as well as the Vets Park sidewalk and trail repairs. And those were actually budgeted in this year's budget, but because they didn't get done, they're being budgeted again next year. So again, the Public Improvement Fund is kind of, I hate to use the term piggy bank, but it's the fund that we use for capital outlay for a lot of different programs, specifically for a lot of general fund requirements. And, from a budgetary standpoint, the only time we hit the Public Improvement Fund is when we've already had excess general fund revenues over expenditures. It's not like we're budgeting it with the hope that we will be over. We're only budgeting amounts that have actually already been realized as excess over our fund balance goal. Economic Opportunities Fund. This is a fund that, first off, we've got some grant programs in here, MEDC and the MISTA grants. That's the $50,000. And, but then we're using it for a planning grant as well as for mowing of the large undeveloped area in the south end of the city, as well as property taxes that we pay on the Buena Vista property. That was a wetland swap. So that's basically what this fund pays for. Oak Ridge Cemetery, obviously this is the city's cemetery.
Commissioner Bernie Obershaw, you have a question?
Yes.
Did you say we pay property tax for our own property?
It is our property, but because it's not necessarily being used for governmental things, we are subject to property taxes.
So how much are we paying us?
Actually, the property is in Buena Vista Township, which isn't really in the city, so we're not paying it to us.
So
paying it.
we're paying, so did you say we're paying us or Buena Vista?
Buena Vista.
Okay, thank you.
All set? All right, thank you. Oh, Commissioner.
Thank you. Any chance we could sell that property?
I don't believe we can. If you want an explanation on how we acquired it, maybe Shelley or Sarah, can you come up and give them an explanation? It was part of a swap years ago.
Sounds like it's a liability now.
Yes, it is.
So we had to obtain a mitigation area because we were going to use wetlands, so we had to obtain wetlands. And to do that, we had to purchase a piece of property, and this was the closest one. But I do want to clarify that we do have a large portion that is farmed, and whatever those taxes are every year is what that farm lease is. So it's a wash. There's nothing that actually comes out of our pocket. The farm lease actually pays those taxes.
So it's not a liability, it's a wash. Perfect, I'm good with that. Thank you so much.
All right. Commissioner Bernie Obershaw, do you have a follow-up?
Okay, you said this was Shelley, that's Sarah.
Said Shelley or Sarah.
Oh, okay. I'm like, okay, this is, all righty.
Okay.
So again, moving on to Oak Ridge Cemetery. Way down. This is, of course, for our cemetery. The general fund typically contributes dollars to make this program work. Typically, it does not generate enough revenues to pay all of the expenses, so there is generally an annual allocation. And then, of course, we have the $4,700 coming from the Oak Cemetery Endowment Fund. So that's the $92,000. Interest and rents, obviously interest on their cash balance. And other revenue is use of fund balance. And then charges for services is the sale of grave plots, lots, etc. Expenses, the other services primarily is the cost of a contract with an organization that handles pretty much all of the maintenance out there. And but then capital outlay, there is a replacement or an expansion of the columbarium for about $50,000, and then about $5,000 for tree planting. James Clement Airport transfers in. Includes general fund allocation, 156,000, and then a small workers' comp allocation back or refund. And federal grants, 342,000, which state grants, 2925. Other revenues, 137.9. Most of that is actually sale of aviation gasoline. And then charges for services is the various hangar rentals, et cetera. This fund there is one person allocated to this budget, the airport manager. Operating costs include the purchase of the gasoline for sale. Other services, just costs associated with operating the airport. And then capital outlay, most of this is all going to be paid for by the federal and state grants. The city is typically on the hook for about 5% of these costs. But next year they're planning on doing a new pump station for $32,000, new stormwater pumps for $290,000, and then taxiway A reconstruction for $58,500, and then they're buying a John Deere Gator for utility purposes. Again, 90% of one position is allocated to the airport manager position. Liberty Harbor Marina, the $866 transfer in is from the workers' comp refund. The state grants, we are not getting a dock grant this year. Other revenue is use of fund balance in the fund. Interest revenues, obviously interest on the cash balance. And then the charges for services, those are the revenues from the rental of the docks for combination of seasonal docks combined with transient docks. There's also various other costs for pump outs and different things like that. Personnel costs, we are going back to having a city employee basically being the manager. In the past, we've used a combination of more temporary staffing for that function. Operating, various costs associated with, stocking the bathrooms, et cetera. The other services is primarily for the indirect or the staffing for all of the other positions besides the manager position, as well as indirect costs associated with being a city fund. And then capital outlay, most of that is going to be for electrical repairs at the D dock, one of the docks for the city. And Liberty Harbor Marina, again, one full-time position for the summer for the manager, and then the .1 is basically an allocation of some of the administrative staff, secretarial staff. Again, DDOC electrical, $192,700.
Commissioner Koch, question?
Why the change to a city manager? City employee, I mean.
We'll let Craig come up and explain.
Basically, the cost still worked out about the same because we were paying a 40% markup for the temp agency, and having somebody that's a city employee that is, because they're taking money and putting it into a new world and doing all of that, we didn't want it to be, it just didn't make sense trying to keep an employee that was going through the temp agency. I didn't want to have to keep trying to train that person and everything else. So, like I said, the budget ended up working about the same. It was maybe a slight increase coming internally, but it's going to provide better long-term function there.
My main thoughts on that are, it's not a year-round job.
It is not, we don't have them year-round. No.
So just looking
It's
at the
just-
costs and
it's still
stuff like
seasonal.
that. Okay, that answers my question. How long, I mean,
Comes in, this year he came in at the beginning of April, I think April 1st or second week of April. And then he would be done when the marina closes in October 15th,
so roughly 6 months?
yeah, give or take.
And then what does that employee do?
So he manages the marina, so he makes sure that the dock attendants are there, watches the budget to make sure if, you know, we're getting close on costs, he cuts some people, make sure the security is there, takes the money from the boaters and stuff like that. So he's just operating the marina.
Thank you.
Any other question? I do have a question while you're, as far as utilization or I mean, are there dock space available, or are they all filled, or?
We are not filled, no.
Okay. So how much capacity do we have there? And that's budgeted that we're at half or whatever capacity?
We go off of like previous years, but I don't remember what the exact capacity is. We're still getting some people coming in. But yeah, no, we are not at full capacity. We're hoping that once we get all the new docks in the next 4 or 5 years, maybe we'll get more people in, but yeah.
Do we market that anywhere, put it on our Facebook page, or that this is available?
I don't know if we do. That's going to be something that I try to work on this year, yeah.
There's also a percentage you can explain that we
Yeah,
have to
there's
keep
a-
for transient,
Correct, I think it's 20% have to stay open for transients.
because we're a safe harbor.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's helpful. Oh, Commissioner Tenney.
Thank you. So there, to the mayor's point, a couple slides ago, it did look like there was quite the decrease with capacity. Is there any kind of, does anybody know why, I guess, or is there?
Failing infrastructure there, and that's why we're trying to replace the docks. I mean, one of the docks has got a bit of a lean to it. There are a couple of the slips we don't even put people on. One slip I think we don't put anybody on because the dock is getting too bad a shape. So I'm gonna say that's probably a big portion of it.
So if we build it, they will come, hopefully.
That's the goal, yep.
Right on, thank you.
Yep.
All right, thank you. I think we're good. Keep going.
Okay. Moving on. Next fund is the DPW service building. Obviously, the city went ahead and renovated a building specifically for our DPW facility. And what we do is, of course, we maintain the building, but then we rent it out to all of the different DPW departments. So engineering, water, the street funds, all of the different departments associated with the city, sanitation, they all pay in order to basically get housed in this building. And then, of course, what we do is we have one person who's kind of the coordinator position, but then there's all of the different operating costs and maintenance costs. But the big thing, of course, is what we did is we borrowed about $14 million to do the renovations. So now we have to pay debt service on it.
Commissioner DeWitt has a question.
That's kind of where my question is going. What is the timeline of getting that done? Because when I was going through these and trying to match the rents to departments, because it's not exactly one-to-one from what I thought, that's a huge expense that's being charged to other departments right now. What's the timeline on those bonds? Was that a 10-year, or was those longer?
I'm pretty sure it was a 20-year bond.
I'm sorry.
20-year.
20? Okay.
Yes.
Because that's like, seems like a lot of money going to charge for rent to a lot of departments. And it looked excessive on the percentages of expenses.
Well, in terms of, basically, we just built 3 new pole barns, and obviously there's a lot of, I think it's about an 80,000 square foot building, not including the outbuildings. So I guess I don't know exactly what the other costs comparable costs, if you wanted storage, or not storage, but actual usable space elsewhere would be.
Or so the back end savings. So we've, if I am correct, we have effectively abandoned the old electric station or electric administration building, like the admin, not the back storage. Like the front offices are gone, right? Those are no longer there. They are out at DPW.
The DPW building has been abandoned. That's the building that's closest to us. But then there's the next building, which is the electric service building. And then there's also another building that's associated with electric. So there's actually two buildings there that are utilized by the electric department. But the northernmost building is the DPW facility, and it was built in, I believe, the 30s, and it was definitely it was acting its age.
Okay. I remember when that DPW project got greenlit officially for the on Marquette there was talk of cost savings overall. What departments in this are we seeing those? Or are we not seeing them yet until the debt gets dropped some? Like, is it, I know it's not going to be like, oh, 1 year we're going to save $5 million in 1 year, but have we seen the savings otherwise at this point, or are we still waiting for those returns to come back?
The old DPW facility was fully paid for. Obviously, the utilities probably weren't very efficient in that building, but it wasn't really abandoned because of various other reasons. The building was in need of replacement, quite frankly. But in terms of cost savings, we now have a building that it's a kind of an apples to orange comparison to what we had over there. So in terms of cost savings, the cost to heat the building may be less because it's a newer facility, but there's certainly it's a more expensive facility than what we had down here, but it also has the utility necessary to provide good, quality, safe environment for our staff.
And the last question I have, how many departments moved out there that were originally or that were previously in City Hall?
Really, let's see, parks, sanitation, DPW.
Engineering was upstairs. It's basically the whole 4th floor.
I know it's empty up there. I was up at the tower fairly recently, but I'm gonna just throw into the ether that to try to find something to either generate revenue or find a use for empty space in some way so that we can at least decrease our overall costs, because charging those departments for that when they were technically being charged for the rent per square foot in City Hall, if I remember correctly, it's still not. It's like you said, it's not one-to-one. It's an apples to oranges comparison, but I'd like to see if we can figure out an idea. I have no idea what that would be. I'm just spitting into the ether to try to help that gap, I guess.
I'll second, Commissioner. Is there future plans for the former DPW building?
So we've looked at that for a couple things. We actually looked at it for public safety, and there's some environmental issues at that location. So Shelley is working through some of those right now, so we're going to have to really wait to see if anything is ever possible to go on that site.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, moving on. This is the Defined Contribution Retirement Fund. And what this fund is pretty much all of our newer employees, none of which are eligible for the old defined benefit retirement system, now basically receive a defined contribution pension benefit. And what we do is as we expense out payroll, we charge that department for their contribution or the employee's contribution for the defined contribution plan. All of those funds are basically deposited into this program or into this fund, and then we send them out to, currently it's Mission Square, that is our defined contribution provider.
Clarification, you said the employee, their employer portion, the city portion, that's represented the city portion of the contribution?
Actually, this represents both city and employer and employee contributions.
So it's combined, okay.
And, but then what we do is we take those dollars and turn around and send them back out. They really do not sit in this fund for anything more than, I don't know, 15 minutes maybe. The money gets in at the same time that it goes back out again. And then we have the old style defined benefit retirement program. And in this situation, we have some employee contributions, but mostly this is it's a closed plan. I believe there's 5 active employees in here. So these costs are what are required to meet the actuarial requirements. For those 5 people on an active basis, they're quite expensive, but this plan is slowly but surely getting 100% funded. So I won't say that this is going to go away, but it should get lessened as we move forward.
Okay.
I didn't hear the timeline.
Oh, I would hesitate to say that what the timeline is because, you know, we could get to 100% funding, everything's all good to go, and then the market tank and we're kind of back.
That's the one tied into the stock market, I recall now.
Are those folks active or are they retired drawing off of that?
Most of the employees are retired. There are still 5 active employees.
So the 5 are active that are still in that plan. Okay, thank you.
Information technology, this of course is our IT department. They basically provide all of our technology here in the city. Obviously, they basically hooked me up with this whole thing, et cetera. And then basically, depending on what kind of equipment and what type of issues the department has or what type of technology they have, they are charged accordingly for the type of services that they receive. So for instance, my department is also in charge of payroll and the budget and the accounting system. So obviously my costs are much higher than a lot of other departments, but again, the charges for services is basically an allocation of those costs to all the user departments. Expenses, personnel, fringe benefits, other services, lots and lots of service contracts for everything imaginable. And capital outlay, we have new PCs, new servers, new switches, things that I'm not even going to try to explain. So that's why I'm in accounting. There are 5.5 positions dedicated to this function. And middle grounds, as I promised before, I wasn't able to find it, but the cost associated with the remediation this year is for 2026, the total cost is going to be $2,109,000, of which the city is going to pay $1,270,000. Next year it goes up to $2,174,000. Following year it does come down to $1,681,000. So this is a fairly significant cost to the city. Now these costs are including what is ultimately going to be allocated also to Honeywell. They pay 34%? Just under 40? Okay, just under 40%. It's a little more than 34, but
Commissioner Tenney has a question.
Just real quick, You reminded me, sir, that you mentioned that GM somehow got off the hook for their portion of this. How the heck did that happen? Is there a way to get them back on the hook?
They filed bankruptcy.
Oh, well, that makes sense. So after they got bailed out, there's no hope at getting them back on the hook, I'm assuming?
No, I don't think so.
All right, thanks.
The question, I do have levied by this, who levies that, that remediation, or how is that levied against?
It's not levied per se. It is basically, we work with a contractor.
But who's requiring it? Is a state requirement? Was there any kind of judgment against the city? There was a judgment against the city, so we're required to, I'm just trying to get to, no, there was not a judgment? No. Could you just clarify it? So, because it is a pretty significant sum that we should understand exactly what that is and what future liability, and is there any chance that could come down?
So it's not a judgment, but we're under a consent decree with the state of Michigan through EGLE, and they enforce that consent decree. That consent decree includes your traditional contaminations, but any emerging contaminants. So when PFAS came out, we started doing testing and found that there was an amount of PFAS. It's not huge, but it's over the criteria. And so now we have to do some mitigation, not so much remediation, because you can't remediate that in the location it's at, but mitigating, making sure that we're not putting PFAS into the river. So now we have mitigation responsibilities to put certain mechanical controls into place, and those are expensive.
Is there potential down the road to ask, any other resources, funds available?
Sure.
Because that's a large sum of money every
So
year.
we are considered a responsible party because we operated the landfill and allowed the items that were put in there to be put in there. And so from the federal government's perspective, we are a responsible party and we are not allowed to receive any benefits. So we can't apply for grants or anything like that. The only way that we could get assistance is to apply for an appropriation, which we have requested one through the state.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Commissioner Shalaba.
Is this essentially for testing of the water wells there?
So we have a number of water wells, so it does cover some of the testing, but it's also to cover installation of a colloidal carbon wall that will help to filter the liquid that's in the island, so that when it goes out to the river, it's clean.
Was this a Superfund site?
At one point in time, yes.
What does that mean exactly? Were we getting help and now we're not?
No, not necessarily. A Superfund site doesn't mean that you get assistance. It's just a level of response from the federal government. At this point in time, it's not considered Superfund to this point of being able to receive assistance from them because we are a liable party. So there's an actual law, it's the Polluters Pays law, that says that we cannot receive help from the federal government unless it's through an appropriation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I wish there, with GM getting out of their portion, boy, it'd be nice to find another avenue to help or with assistance with the community.
Yeah, when they filed bankruptcy, their share got divided in half. Honeywell took half and we took half. So we didn't get the whole part, but it still didn't really particularly help.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Any other questions? All right.
I guess just to end, fairly significant costs this year. That's not going to get less for at least several more years. Moving on, security funds. We allocated some money into the security fund a number of years ago, and there's still a $131,000 cash balance in the fund. We continue to want to use those dollars for different programs. And this year we've got $44,997 capital outlay for security camera systems here in the city. So it's going to be funded out of this balance. The MRF fund.
Cool. Commissioner Tenney.
Just real quick, this is one that had dog-eared. Why the increase in security cameras for this year. I have some Fourth Amendment concerns when it comes to that.
I believe this is actually the license plate reader system that is going to be implemented by our public safety department. And that's, of the 44,000, 37,000 almost is associated with that system.
Okay, why?
I'm
The system that we're looking at is called Flock. They're license plate reader cameras that are used throughout the country, really. A lot of private entities have them, and a lot of municipalities are putting them in as well. So basically, they help us with reacting to crimes that have happened. So if we have an armed robbery, let's say, we'd be able to enter certain information. Might not be the license plate, it could just be the description of the vehicle, stickers that might be on it, that sort of thing, and it'll generate output for us to follow up on from there.
So what about John Q. citizen who hasn't committed a doggone crime getting surveilled because, just in case?
Well, we wouldn't be interested in that type of thing. It would give us notifications for people that have like felony warrants or wanted personnel, that type of thing. But we wouldn't be monitoring it ourselves. It's just a computer system that generates to us.
I see, so it's to look back on, basically. And we're not talking like eye in the sky, get a ticket by mail sort of system, nothing that sophisticated.
No, it has nothing to do with tickets. Honestly, you'd be surprised how frequently you are already in a license plate reader area. Home Depot, for example, I believe, Home Depot or Lowe's, one of the two, I think they're a national company that have them in their parking lots, and they'll connect with the Michigan State Police and be able to connect into that whole system. So it's very frequent. It's, just a modern technology that is prevalent nowadays.
Not a fan, but hey, that's not your fault. Thank you.
Commissioner Charlebois.
As far as you know, is there any research that these cameras help prevent crime or catch the bad guys?
Well, we've had success, even though we don't have the program yet. We've already had success with certain incidents.
7-Eleven cameras or?
Well, like for instance, if we have a stolen vehicle, we enter the vehicle as stolen into the law enforcement information network. And then Saginaw frequently has said, hey, that vehicle went through Veterans Parkway here in Saginaw at 20 minutes after the crime happened in Bay City. And you'd be able to follow that vehicle where it went and use that as points to do follow-up on. It's not normally going to put someone in a driveway somewhere, but it can help you get an idea where they went for investigators to look on.
Okay, thank you.
Just real quick, where are the cameras in the vehicles or they're, no?
Yeah, they'll be placed on utility poles and strategic locations throughout the city.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you.
Okay, next fund is the MRF fund, and this is, well, MRF stands for Motor Equipment Revolving Fund. This is a fund that I guess you could say owns all of the cars, trucks, pieces of equipment in the city, and then basically this fund leases them out to the street department or the sanitation fund, et cetera, et cetera. They are, MRF, of course, is the one responsible for changing the oil, putting new tires on, fixing the transmission when it gets blown out or something like that. They're the ones who are basically doing doing or contracting for all of the maintenance on all these different vehicles. The program is set up where each department pays not only an annual cost for the maintenance associated with that piece of equipment, but also basically a replacement amount, so that at the end of 5 years, 10 years, there's theoretically a balance in there that can be used to purchase vehicles. And for next year, what is coming up is we're looking at buying about $2.5 million in new trucks, new cars, et cetera, as well as personnel costs and fringe benefits associated with maintaining all that equipment, operating supplies, all of the repair parts, other services. A lot of things are contracted out. We're out to, different locations. But then on the debt service, the $87,295. This is what we pay for the lease on the aerial fire truck that the city basically shares with Hampton Township. So these are all of the different costs associated with the fire trucks, the dump trucks and, sanitation vehicles, et cetera. There are a little over 9 people associated with the department in terms of mechanics, managers, staff, et cetera. Moving on to the self-insurance fund. This program, basically the city is self-insured for most of our exposures. What we do is we have a contract also, or we have a policy with MMRMA, so Michigan Risk Management,
Michigan
Risk
Municipal
Municipal Association.
Risk Management Authority.
And what that is kind of like a catastrophic insurance policy. So if we have, a huge loss, for instance, this building, when it burned, much of those costs were paid for by that catastrophic policy. Same way with the liability claims, et cetera, et cetera. But as a result, what's happened over the years is all of the different departments contribute into this fund, and then depending on their actual claims experience, they may contribute $100,000 into it, but their claims are only $25,000 or $30,000 or $50,000. And what's happened over the years is we've built up a fairly significant fund balance. And what we're doing this year is reducing the charges for services and then using some of that the fund balance to basically pay the cost of this program. So this particular year, departments are getting close to a 50% discount on their insurance just because they haven't used it as much as maybe we thought they were going to. Best way to put it. Expenses, obviously, this is the cost of the contract or policy with MMRMA, as well as the cost of all the different claims that the city pays directly. So, the different little car accidents that we get into, the city just pays for those costs. Life insurance fund, again, pretty much all employees are eligible for life insurance, and these costs are allocated to the individual departments through payroll, and all of the money comes back to the life insurance fund, and then we use this money to go ahead and pay the cost of those benefits. So $45,000 for life insurance for all of our employees. Workers' compensation, I've kind of talked about this number of times. This is the fund that we allocate the cost of workers' comp as a percentage of payroll to all the different departments. And again, what ended up happening is our actual cost for workers' comp claims was much less than what we had projected. So we are using $500,000 of that number, of those dollars, to basically give a refund to all the different departments. So again, a nice little benefit for operating a safe work environment is really what it comes down to. Again, $587,000 for continued claims, $500,000 allocated back to the different departments. Unemployment fund, we created basically a separate fund. We charged out unemployment costs to all departments, and we built up a dollar amount pretty quickly. We no longer are charging departments for unemployment. We have very, very small claims on an annual basis, $15,000 a year. We've still got $122,000 sitting in the account. So this will keep us for close to another 10 years before we'll have to go out and charge departments for unemployment, unless, of course, we have some large layoff or something like that. Healthcare fund, just like the life insurance and the other different fringe benefits, we also provide healthcare for our employees. And unfortunately, this fund is a little bit more than like the $43,000 for life insurance. And quite frankly, we had a fairly significant increase in the costs this past year. We spend about $5.6 million for our health care. And this is allocated out to every department based on actual staffing. So, for instance, Angela has a family coverage versus somebody who's single, has much lower costs. It's the actual cost of providing that health care to their employee. Expenses, of course, there's a portion of a staff member in the HR department charged here for the administration, but most of the other services is basically paying the claims. The city is self-insured, so we actually pay the actual cost of the different services that people are going in for. Of course, we pay the administration to Blue Cross and a stop-loss payment as well. It's lots and lots of money. Again, small allocation of less than half a person to this fund. Disability insurance, pretty much the same thing as what I've talked about before, just the cost of disability insurance for all employees. Healthcare savings, this is the fund that basically replaced retiree health care, or the old style defined benefit plan for retiree health care. So instead of employees having an insurance policy to pay their health care benefits in retirement, what the city does is it contributes 6% of payroll into a fund that is managed by the employee, so they can be risky or be as risk adverse or as risky as they want in terms of the investment of it. And then those dollars, when they retire, are their dollars, and they can use it for healthcare purposes, including even like over-the-counter drugs, etc. But
Commissioner Charlebois.
Move for a 5-minute recess.
Commissioner, we have like 2 more slides, and then I plan on taking a recess.
Okay. But this fund, if you notice, there's another revenue, and our program has a vesting requirement. So you have to be vested for so many years before you can take those dollars with you. If you leave, those dollars come back to the city. That's what these other revenues are. And ultimately, they're transferred back to city funds. Police and fire retirement, this is the defined benefit program that is only applicable to the sworn employees for the police and fire departments, so police and fire personnel. This is, a large, well-managed program. There's approximately $60 million in the fund that is invested in bonds and stocks, and it's being invested by somebody that has whole lot better experience at doing that than me. I don't touch that stuff. So anyways, this is the money that is being taken out of, the police funds and put in there, and the $3.4 million is the expected investment revenue. And then on the next page, we have fringe benefits. The 6.7 million is literally the dollar amounts that we are paying to the retirees. So $6.7 million in benefits. Other services is investment cost and revenue expenses, et cetera. And retiree healthcare trust fund, this is similar to the defined benefit plan. This is the old style retiree healthcare that people who are still in this entitled to it receive a healthcare policy when they retire. And we have been putting money into this trust for a number of years. And at this point, the interest is actually building to be very, very significant, so much so that what we are actually charging to departments is almost getting to the point where we make as much an interest as what we contribute. And that's the way it really should work. And of course, the other services is the cost of those insurance policies, basically. With that, that's the end.
All right, any other real quick questions? All right, so I'm going to adjourn us till 7:25, so you get 8 minutes. All right, it's now 7:25. We're back into regular order. Just let the record show that we're just missing Commissioner Bernier Overshaw. Okay. Just want to make sure if there weren't any, I know we wanted to go to the restroom break, if there weren't any other questions about the budget presentations that we saw. All right, seeing none. Next order of business is the adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion to adopt agenda? Commissioner Tenney?
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Is there a second? Commissioner Rundberg?
Second.
All right. Do any members of the commission wish to add an item to the agenda? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll on the adoption of the agenda?
Commissioner Coakley.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
6 yes.
All right, the agenda has been adopted. Next order of business is the consent agenda. Do any members of the commission wish to make a change to the consent agenda? All right, seeing none, next order of business calls for public input on the consent agenda. This is the opportunity for citizens to remove an item from the consent for consideration on the regular agenda. If anyone in the audience wishes to make a change, please come forward to the microphone, print your name on the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record, and the item you wish to have considered on the regular agenda.
Today's date, please.
Today is the 19th,
Thank you.
but you don't need to date it.
Well, the paper wasn't dated.
Oh, okay. Just make sure when you state the item you want removed and just a brief description of which items.
Oh, well, this might,
This is not public comment at this time. This is
no,
just,
I understand that part. I
Okay.
thought I was able to suggest something to be put on the agenda.
nope, this is only to have something removed to put on regular order for discussion.
Okay, I apologize.
No worries. Thank you. Seeing none, this time calls for remarks of the mayor and commission. Oh, I'm sorry. We're going to vote on the consent agenda. I skipped ahead. So I need a motion on the consent agenda. Commissioner Morris,
Move to approve the consent agenda.
is there a second? Commissioner Runberg?
Second.
All right. Any discussion on consent agenda? Oh, Commissioner?
I was in the bathroom. I wanted to take number 6 off.
What is item 6?
City manager recommending contract with Mid-Michigan Roofing LLC, Saginaw, Michigan, for construction services to rehabilitate.
Commissioner, that's all we need. I just need a brief description of what it is.
Perfect.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. So we'll remove that, and then we'll take a vote on the consent agenda minus head item.
So good? Okay. Commissioner Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlebois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, the consent agenda items have been approved. Now we're into remarks of the mayor and commissioners. Do commissioners have remarks to make? Commissioner Runberg.
Yeah, this was on the agenda earlier, but I think in an earlier version, but it was taken off. And I just had a question about it. It was originally for the mayoral appointment for the Parks and Rec Committee. I know we had some discussion about the youth seat being a non-voting, but this, from what I understand, is just an advisory board. So is there a reason why the youth seat was non-voting, or have we changed that?
I'll have the city manager answer that.
So you're asking why the youth is not voting?
Correct.
I believe that was a recommendation from our city attorney because it was a youth.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting since it's an advisory committee to begin with. There's no actual teeth to their decision. All right. Just it seems like it would be more of a civic engagement thing for the youth to have them involved in that more entirely. But that's all I have.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Yes, I have a question about being on the board and how many boards can a person be on? If you're already on the board, how many appointments, how many times can you be on a board?
You can be on 2 boards at one time, 2 boards or committees.
All right, that's because I saw someone on a board, they were already on a board 2 times, so that's what my problem was. I just wanted the clarification on that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, well, before I make appointments or make recommendations, I ask the city staff to make sure that's vetted, that we have the appropriate number, so it doesn't get more than the 2. It was removed because there's a commission appointment that's a component of that, so we'll have to determine that. So it'll have to be revised, so that's why it was removed for tonight.
Okay, that's why it was removed?
Yeah, because the commissioner is a part of that, and that's part of the number, so that wasn't taken into consideration. So we have to revise that, and I'll have to look over those lists again.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Anything else, Commissioner Tenney?
You know, I got one. Thank you to the chair. May is Mental Health Awareness Month still. Just wanted to encourage folks to get the help you need. Among males that are experiencing daily feelings of anxiety and depression, only 40% of them are going to seek professional services out. If you look at black and brown men, it's about half of that, 20%. Daily feelings of anxiety and depression are not average, so that's something to definitely look at. You can Google your community mental health. We're mandated to have one in every area, thanks to the Mental Health Act. Ours is Bay Aranac Behavioral Health. Next door, there's Saginaw County Community Mental Health. If you're watching from there, there's also organizations like Great Lakes Bay Health Centers that will assist you regardless of your insurance status or income. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Bernie Overshaw, you said you had something?
Yes, I wanted to ask the city manager a question. I know we're going to talk about Commissioner Charbois, his resolution about Fire Station 5. We talked last week, and the last time we were here in commission, and we talked about we had to get our bids in, that you had put the bids in. What I would like to ask, I would like the names of the contractors that are putting the bids in, and if you could get those names for us, that would be very, very helpful to the commission. Also, I would like to get the cost that they are going to, that they're asking for. So I would like us to have the names of them. I would like to have the reviews of different agencies or contractors that you're dealing with. I feel that we need to look those over as the commission, and we need to be a part of choosing which contractors will be looked at. I think that we need to participate in that and give us a list of the names of those contractors. I don't feel that you should be the only one looking at that. So if you could have the names of the contractors for us, so we can, check out the reviews and see who they are. Thank you.
And I'm going to let the city manager answer, and then Commissioner Charlo.
So we don't have the bids back yet. So they're still out for bid for the engineer architect portion of the fire station. So they're not back yet. You will get a copy of what the bids come in at. The ordinance as it sits now does not allow the commission to sit in and pick the contractor that's coming to the commission. We'll give you a recommendation, and you have the other bids alongside of that you could choose something differently. There's a process that's outlined.
I understand there's a process, but we would like to know if it's Shaw. We would like to know if it's...
You will know. You get that in every packet when we award a contract.
We understand that, but we would like to see the choices.
You get that in every... You get that
We
every
understand that, but it would be nice. It's a recommendation. I would like to see a list of different names of contracting companies. We would like to see that. I would. So personally, as a commissioner...
To the commissioner, are you looking for the list of who's able to submit? And not the ones that, because the thing is that the bids will come to us and we'll get the list that shows the scopes or whatever with everyone who's applied. Are you looking for a list of everybody who could apply? Because that's a huge list.
I think it's that I'm worried because when we had with the bridges, it seems like we were kind of cut out, and it seems like there was only a couple bids, and we ended up with United Bridge Partners, and this is what happened to us. It was like a blind thing. We didn't know we were going to end up with what we got. So I guess I figure, I'm for the people. I think they wouldn't have chosen what we got, and so this is what we got. And I think the public needs, more transparency, and I'm just hoping that it doesn't turn out like it is now with the tolling situation. So maybe I'm just, leaping a little bit far, but, I'm a citizen and a constituent also, and I'm just kind of being careful.
So, for example, at the last meeting, we discussed the overnight contracting security guard for Liberty. We'll get that list. Well, we know with the bridges, back then there were presentations by a couple organizations, and that city commission made a determination on their own timeline. That's not the same thing as what's going to happen for the Station 5 bridge. So I guess I understand your trepidation with that, but I also want to note that we can't just go no to anything that comes up for those types of contracts. That type of contract for the fire station repair, I think that can go to pretty much anyone who's vetted with the state, but only a few actually work with government agencies. So that's going to be whatever comes back when it's done. And I mean, we just have, at this point, we have to wait and follow the timeline.
Okay, so we will have a choice to say, okay, if this person, you know, we could just pick, they could just pick someone and say whoever is cheaper, and then we get this crappy job done on Fire Station 5, and then next year, the roof's bad, okay, then we got to shut you down again. You know, we can't use the fire station. So what I'm saying is that I feel we need to really review who's going to do it to make sure, hey, this fire station's going to stay open for, 20, 30 years. We don't want someone to come in there and do a bullcrap job just for the sake of it to shut our mouths about this fire station, and then they come back and shut it down. We see it in the news like they did. They just took it from them in the news, and they woke up and said, hey, wait a minute, Fire Station 5 is closed. They didn't even know it, the citizens over there. So I'm just worried about that for transparency. That's all I have to say. I understand. I take it from you verbatim. I understand. You're good at what you do. I trust you. Thank you, DeWitt. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner,
I had others.
you always have the choice on everything. We vote on everything. Commissioner Shalabaugh.
I just wanted to say to the commissioner that some of the things you're concerned about, I tried to be very specific writing, and it went back and forth a little bit. Within the law, we should get everything that you're talking about. I'm pretty sure of that. That's all I have to say.
I'll say Commissioner Coakley.
Just to be clear, everybody who turns in a bid, we get to see that in the packet?
Just like every other contract that comes before you.
That's what I thought, because I had noticed it had always been in there.
Every packet.
So everybody who turns in a bid, it is there for us to see. And it's going to
Absolutely.
continue that way?
Yep.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeWitt.
Okay. Other things. Did we ever get a first open night from the Good Samaritan Rescue Mission for the temporary system? Because I know it was pitched as May or June.
Yeah, we don't have one yet. Ms. Kiesel is working on that with Good Samaritan right now, so we'll get that for you.
Okay, because I'm getting nudged on that one too, because it was 5 months ago and they said May or June, and everyone says May and you hear May 1st. So I just want to get that settled here so we're ready to go. Next one, work that was done in Winona Park that may not have been paid for because of somebody who is currently under a investigation. If they did work in a city, if an organization did work in a city park and we are seeing the benefit of that, what recourse is there for them if they have not been reimbursed yet? Do we have anything for that?
Their avenue is to file a lawsuit, actually.
Okay, so there's no ability to like do a settlement or anything for backup on that?
I don't think we're at that point yet. There's been talks about doing that, but we're not at that point yet.
Okay, because I'm hearing things about that too, and it's lovely to know that that is now an issue with some of our small businesses that were promised funds by not the city specifically, but from other individuals, and they are not getting their funding. The last one that I have for tonight is the whole difference between local streets and major streets. So like, I know it's been discussed, we've discussed it in this chamber about what's the difference between major streets and local streets and what's couponable, what's not. The list I submitted last meeting to just check it, that helped me a lot for mine ones. I kind of figured that's what each of them were going to be. But on the one dashboard that shows the condition, is there an easy way without spending thousands of man hours to mark what each street is? So like, say like 32nd, that's a local street that is non-couponable, but like Michigan, it would be couponable in theory. Like, is there a way for us to mark that on that portal?
So you're just looking for us to label either major or local? That's what you're looking for?
Yeah, just as a starting point, because
Yeah, we can see if GIS
some people are like, oh, major streets are only the state highways. It's like, no, major streets are other streets that are just high traffic.
Yeah, let me see if that's something easy we can do.
Okay, those are the ones I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Bernie Obershaw.
Okay, I have one more question for Dana. I wrote you last week, and when I was here, I asked you to have in the code enforcement, because I wrote a resolution about the landlords in enforcing code enforcement to make sure that the landlords do the upkeep and take care of the law for the 167/1917 compliance with the Michigan law for housing. And when I asked you about the code enforcement, and I wanted Sue Coggins to come, I wrote the resolution or whatever, you stated that she was not the code enforcement head. So, and I wanted her to come to Chambers. Well, I took back my resolution, or it was sent back to staff. So I found out who is the inspector. And so I wrote you the letter and asked you, could you have them here when we have our presentation? So you never did write back to me to let me know who those rental housing inspectors are. So now I would like to have, his name is Troy Sierras. There is another one, the property.
Point of order, I'm not sure you can,
But they're in the,
but
they're
I
in
don't
the
think you can
code.
demand people to come, correct me if
I'm not
wrong.
demanding them. I asked for the department. And there are different sections of the department.
The department can do a presentation, but I don't think you can demand that certain people come up, city employees.
Well, I'm not, they're the only ones that can talk for
Okay,
that.
it's being confirmed.
Yeah, they're the only ones that can talk for that, because she doesn't know anything about the rental, and she's not a rental inspector. I'm writing about the rental inspectors. She's the,
I think it still goes through the department head.
Next month.
she's not the head. She's even.
We do have a
Department
presentation.
coordinator, I'm sorry, department coordinator is the correct terminology.
Our next meeting, we do have the presentation, I understood.
She can't give a presentation on inspectors.
Yeah.
She doesn't, she said that
Commissioner?
she couldn't at our last meeting.
Ms. Coggan will be at the next meeting, and she can speak for that department. She can speak for the inspector. She's not the department head, is what I said. Debbie Kiesel is the department head.
You said that she is not a department head.
That is correct.
So I asked, could the rental inspector, could he come to the chambers to give a presentation with her? And I asked for the other rental inspector maintenance, because it is about landlords having their homes registered and inspected for rental violations and registration violations for not registering their rental units and renting homes to people that are not kept up to code. So I asked you that. You never wrote me back. You said Sue Coggins is not the head. You said she's a coordinator. So since she was the coordinator and not the head, I decided to ask. You said she wasn't the department head. She's a coordinator, right? So I decided to go straight to the rental inspector, because she doesn't go to the homes. She doesn't do the porches. She doesn't violate the electricity. She doesn't do anything inside of the rental units. So there's nothing that she could tell me. There is nothing that she can tell me about them registering the apartment buildings. There's nothing. That's why I'm asking you.
Point of order, real
have
quick.
them come.
I guess we can ask for them to come up, but no, I'm saying we can't ask whatsoever, so the answer is no, but the coordinator or the head can come out.
And that's who's coming to.
And then we have that, and they'll be able to speak with full knowledge on everything that the commissioner is asking for?
That's, yes, because those inspectors report to Sue, so she can absolutely 100% say what happens in that department.
Okay, so she'll have all the answers to
Yes.
all the questions that the
Absolutely.
commission will want to ask her.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I just wonder, Ed, if you have some questions beforehand too to submit it to make sure.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to tell you it's conflict of interest because you were a landlord for several years here in Bay City, and your things were registered through the city. And second of all, Mr. Kokelay, the commission can ask whoever they want to come to this floor.
No, they cannot.
I can make a resolution, and they can vote for
No, they-
that
no,
person
they-
to step up to that table.
No, they cannot.
I'll write a resolution.
Okay, write a resolution,
And if we
but you
pass
cannot-
it, they will come here and tell us why are they not fixing the apartments and people are
We
living
cannot
in
attack
those
city
conditions.
employees.
I'm not
But
attacking.
this, yeah, we don't want to go back and forth like this.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Charlebois. Hey. All right, any other commissioner have, okay, there is the property, I just want to make public aware, there's a property that I get asked a lot, and I'm sure others have, that there was that major fire on Madison Avenue. I don't know what I can say about it exactly.
Yes, so I know people are asking about the condition, and they would like it down. So they did secure a building permit, and they have 120 days from that date to demo that piece of property. So that's a long time, but by law, we have to give them 120 days.
Okay, I get asked frequently, I'm sure other commissioners have too. And then I wrote a little other note that I can't read. Oh, Carroll Park. Did we announce the last time we got the Carroll Park grant? Or that was announced after we did, okay. There will be, I know there's questions about public input, and I know there's going to be opportunities for the public to give input on that. So, so there's that. City manager, do you have anything?
Just have a couple things. Just a reminder that we do have a housing survey that's out on our website that we would like people to participate in. And also just kudos to, once again, our crews from the electric department. With the storm that did come through the state on Thursday night, we did have a few things that they had to take care of here in the city before they were released to go help people in Lansing. I know that people in Lansing still don't have power right now, but we sent 2 3-person crews down to assist Lansing.
You know, and I forgot, I wanted to thank the electric department because, you know, they've been going through our whole system, and we had a significant storm come through, and there's limited power outages, so kudos to that department. Please pass it along. All right, next order of business calls for public input. Under the rules of the City Commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Coakley will serve as the timekeeper. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the commission regarding any agenda item or any other matter. If anyone wishes to address the commission, please come forward, print your name on the registration sheet, and state your name and address for the record. Just a couple other comments. We do ask that you be respectful when addressing the mayor and the commission. Public input is a one-way communication, and the mayor and commissioners cannot answer questions at this point. And you're welcome to meet with them after the meeting if you need further information, and then you have 5 minutes to speak. So, anybody like to come forward? This is the time.
Hello, my name is Jeff Reed, 409 Fillmore. Just for the record, all of my signs are chamber friendly. They're made out of foam, so nothing gets damaged, which is very important. I'm here to talk tonight about the Bay City Bridge Partners, of course. And I'd like to start out with what do we know about the Bay City Bridge Partners? Well, what we know about the Bay City Bridge Partners is that they haven't changed. They don't want the public to know anything, especially about their sneaky tactics, trying to communicate with other municipalities secretly under the radar, and then we don't find out until months after. What we also know is they won't let Meals on Wheels cross a toll bridge without paying a toll. And they deliver meals to our elderly. Let's see what else we know. What we also know is that they won't allow a volunteer fireman to cross that bridge. If we call for assistance, they're going to have to pay. They also, if you're sick and you got to cross that bridge, you have a medical emergency, they're going to charge an ambulance too. And this is something that I picked up on. This was on our contract, page 33 and 34. They don't even have to stop tolling in a local state of emergency. And I found that on page 33 and 34. I thought that was kind of interesting. And then something I would like added to the budget, and I mentioned it before, I think it's very important and it needs to be labeled, dealing with the Bay City Bridge Partners, lies and nasty business tactics. We need to have in our budget summary a minimum of $100,000 a year to deal with these individuals, because they have shown us they're not going to change their business tactics, folks. The other thing is I'd like to talk about that $5 million. Well, we don't have that $5 million in the bank anymore from the Bay City Bridge Partners, because we used 30 of it so far for attorney fees, and I don't know what the other amount is because I haven't got an answer on that yet. As you can see, $30,000 we've spent so far from when the Bridge Partners created this big mess with wanting to double the tolls. That's where we're at. I still haven't received anything on city staff, local law enforcement that was down there, which wasn't necessary because it was very peaceful. So this is why we need to have that $100,000 in our budget every year to deal with these Bridge Partners. Something, I have a couple questions here, and I'm hoping I'll be able to answer these questions at our next meeting. The first question is, we just spent $30,000 on attorney fees, and I would like to know, what did we get for our 30,000 bucks that we just spent? And if that 30,000, is that meter still running with these attorneys, or did we cut them off? Has there been a deal made secretly behind the public's back with the Bay City Bridge Partners without our knowledge? I hope that doesn't happen, because we need to be included on whatever kind of agreement or deal that you choose to make with this crooked company. The next question.
Time.
Commissioner Runberg.
Move to provide the speaker 2 more minutes.
Commissioner Tenney.
Second.
Is there an objection? Seeing none, the speaker has 2 more minutes.
Thank you. The next question is, When is the mayor going to tell us if the Bay City Bridge Partners violated this contract? And it doesn't even have to be the mayor, it can be anybody that has the knowledge. Another thing that we know, the boycott against the Bay City Bridge Partners, that's going real well. Everybody's, doing what we can to avoid those bridges. The people that do have city privilege, which is not a good feeling to have, they're trying to use those bridges, but they're crossing them for free to help lighten up the traffic on Vets Bridge. Something else we know, the Princess Winona, they changed course. That's awesome. Thank you, Princess Winona. Bay County said no deal. That's great. And then last but not least, the warning. If any municipalities out there or private citizens think about entering into a contract with Bay City Bridge Partners, don't do it. If you do, you will be sorry, just like we are. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'd like to come for public comment. Next order of business calls for public hearing. And we actually have 4 public hearings.
Mayor Gerard,
Go.
Hello, my name is Valerie. I live at 1513 Helen Street. I come here today not just speaking to the commission, but I hope to the world as well. I wanted to say just how disgusted I am with this country and people while Israel conducts its final solution against the Palestinian people in Gaza. But I am not surprised considering how this country's culture and foundation is genocide, not just of the Palestinians, the Native Americans, or the people of Africa, but also of our planet and to our own citizens as well. When the FBI and CIA murdered revolutionaries across the globe under the guise of the war on drugs and war on terror, and then distributed these drugs that the president says are coming from Mexico, China, or wherever he says, but from our own government, and they have now perfected this by making us addicted to the most common drug, our phones, which also are made from profiting off of the exploitation of the people in the Democratic Republic of Congo, so that the citizens are unconscious to the reality of the world around them, even when the world itself is burning. Again, I am not surprised that this is the attitude that people have, especially when they elect leaders who only care about profit. From Nixon to Reagan to Clinton to Bush 1 and 2 to Obama to Biden and finally Trump as well as most American presidents. These people are all complicit in the genocide of the world, and they should not get any sympathy because of their crimes against humanity and every species on this planet. This is the same government and system that knew and let 9/11 happen and then went to war with countries that did nothing, that had nothing to do with it, leaving millions of civilians dead and American soldiers who died for nothing. This government and system will certainly do this again with any country they want to profit from. The American people need to wake up and liberate themselves, and they need to remember the history of how this country was started, founded, and hasn't changed one bit at all. And that is the truth. I want to end with a quote by Malcolm X, who would be 100 today if he wasn't murdered by the FBI or CIA. I am for truth, no matter who tells it. I am for justice, no matter who is for or against it. I am a human being first and foremost, and as such, I'm for whoever and whatever benefits humanity as a whole. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward for public comment? Okay, next is order of business calls for a public hearing. This is the opportunity for citizens to address the commission regarding public hearings 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we can take them as a whole group, and then folks want to come up and speak, they just speak, we'll take them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. So under the rules of the commission, each speaker will be allowed 5 minutes to speak. Commissioner Coakley will serve as timekeeper. Is there a motion to allow for public hearings 1, 2, 3, and 4? Commissioner DeWitt.
Motion to allow public hearings 1 through 4. Do you want me to list details? Okay.
Yeah, okay, yep, I'll have you read them.
Public hearing 1 regarding establishment of zoning districts, section 122-82, regarding the Code of Ordinances, chapter 30, businesses.
Commissioner, you have to actually read the.
Oh, these ones have to be verbatim.
Thank you.
Okay, I can do that. Okay, try again. Public hearing 1, ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, chapter 122, zoning, article 4, establishment of zoning districts, section 122-82, zoning map. Public hearing 2, ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, chapter 30, businesses, article 15, medical marijuana facilities, division 4, general requirements, section 30-529E, prohibited acts regarding hours of operation. Number 3, ordinance amendment to Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30, Businesses, Article 17, Recreational Marijuana, Division 4, General Requirements, Section 30-730E, Prohibited Acts regarding hours of operation. And number 4, request to vacate the right-of-way in McGraw Street, located in Block 135, of the addition of a lower Saginaw plot and extends approximately 302 feet west to the Harrison Street right-of-way and does not extend to the Saginaw River pursuant to Section 94 of the City Code of Ordinances.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Coakley?
Second.
All right, so if anyone wishes to address the commission regarding public hearing item number 1, please come forward, sign the registration sheet, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing no one come forward, public hearing number 2. Okay, seeing no one come forward, public hearing number 3. And then finally, public hearing number 4. Anybody wish to come forward? Okay, next item of business calls for special orders. Will the clerk read the next item on the agenda?
Special Order 1, City Manager recommending ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 122 zoning, Article 14, Establishment of Zoning Districts, Section 122-82 zoning map. Recommendation approve.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Runberg.
Move to approve the city manager recommendation.
Is there support or second? Commissioner Coakley.
Support.
Second?
Second.
All right. Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Tenney.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, motion passes. Will the clerk read the next item?
Special Order 2, Commissioner Rumberg recommending ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30 Businesses, Article 15 Medical Marijuana Facilities, Division 4 General Requirements, Section 3529E Prohibited Acts regarding hours of operation. Recommendation approve.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Tenney?
Move to approve.
There's a second. Commissioner Coakley?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion is approved. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Number 3, Commissioner Rumberg recommending ordinance amendment to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 30 Businesses, Article 17 Recreational Marijuana, Division 4 General Requirements, Section 3730E Prohibited Acts regarding hours of operation. Recommendation approve.
Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Charlebois?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
And DeWitt.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion's approved. Will the clerk please read the next item?
Number 4, city manager recommending the request to vacate McGraw Street located in Block 135 of the addition to Lower Saginaw Plat and extends approximately 302 feet west of the Harrison Street right-of-way and does not extend to the Saginaw River pursuant to Section 94 of the City Code of Ordinances. Recommendation approved.
Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Move to approve.
There's a second. Commissioner Rundberg?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner DeWitt?
If only all things on planning went this smoothly. I think this is the smoothest one I've watched in a long time. Just the vacation or anything that comes through. I have been very little pushback to this, which is great because it's something that seems really simple.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Yes, I'd like to, city manager, could you explain this to me? What is going to go on with this? Is it someone building there, or what's going to happen? Please explain that to me.
So a vacation is usually a street or an alley, so they would have use of it. And so we're actually giving them the rights to use that minus our utility easements, so we can still get into that. I don't believe that they're building anything in that portion.
So are the neighbors notified?
They are. Every neighbor is notified within a certain amount of feet. They have opportunities to come and also to write into Terry Multane, our planner.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other discussion, Commissioner DeWitt?
Just as a note, this block has no residences on it. It's back to commercial properties.
Okay. Anybody else? All right, seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Charlebois?
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion approved. All right, next item of order of business is the regular agenda. Will the clerk please read the next item?
Reports of Officers 6, City Manager recommending contract with Mid-Michigan Roofing LLC, Saginaw, Michigan, for construction services to rehabilitate the Henry Street peaking plant's roof in the amount of $68,456. Recommendation approved.
Is there a motion? Is there a motion? Commissioner DeWitt?
Move to approve.
Is there a second? Commissioner Morris?
Second.
Discussion. Commissioner Bernie Overshaw.
Yes, I would like to, could you please explain that to me? Did we at one point, did we approve that, or did we have that on one of our agendas? And when did it, well, how about, when did this come about? Was this recent, or was this before we did the Station 5 situation? I mean, or is this just recent?
This is recent. It hasn't come to commission before.
Okay, thank you.
All set. Anybody else? Commissioner Rundberg?
I just have a quick question on the, what do they call it? The bid evaluation composite scores. Couple things on there. Well, I guess specifically, do we have a process to look at the history of the work and quality of work that a particular bidder has put forward?
We do, and that's why the responsible contracting ordinance was adopted, so it allows us to go in and score on all of those types of things. So in particular, I know that the lowest bid was not the bid that was chosen. And it's because of their workplace safety. And we're not saying that the workplace safety is bad for Thomas Brown. It's just the way that they didn't give us a report for their experience modification request, I think it's called, or rate. And that has like the claim history that contractors have. So that's why they got a lower score.
Okay, all right, that clears it up for me. Thank you.
All right, Commissioner Morris?
Through Chair, through City Manager, do we know why they did not give that to us? Did they just choose not to give it to us? Did they give us an explanation why we did not receive it?
Yeah, they just chose not to give it to us. It was just one thing they didn't submit.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Morris?
Yes.
Coakley?
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw?
Yes.
Tenney?
Yes.
DeWitt?
Yes.
Rumberg?
Yes.
Charlebois?
Yes.
7 yes.
All right, motion passes. Will the clerk please read the next item of business?
Regular Agenda 1, Commissioner Charlebois' resolution regarding Fire Station Number 5.
Is there a motion? Commissioner Charlebois? Oh, you didn't put your hand up? Oh, Commissioner Rundberg?
I'll second.
Move to approve Commissioner Charlebois' resolution.
All right, Commissioner
Second.
Shalwa, second, okay. Discussion. Commissioner Morris.
I'm looking at the timeline through the chair to city manager. Is this the average timeline it takes to be able to put out for bids? It seems like it's just lengthy. Is this
No,
normal or?
This is, well, I think what's lengthy to this is because we have to get an engineer architect. Usually we don't have to go right, we can go right to the bidding portion if it's a regular contract. But we need to have an engineer architect to set that up to begin with. So there's like 2 sets of bids that we're gonna have to go through.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? Commissioner Shalwa?
I just want to say, there was the roof issue, and then there's some other issues with water seeping into the building, and those have to be addressed too, and this helps address that.
Okay, anybody else? Seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Coakley.
Yes.
Bernie Obershaw.
Yes.
Tenney.
Yes.
DeWitt.
Yes.
Rumberg.
Yes.
Charlebois.
Yes.
Morris.
Yes.
7 yes.
Motion's been approved. Madam Clerk, does that complete the items on tonight's agenda? It does. We are adjourned.